The dining hall fell into complete silence the moment the front door opened. Every guest turned their eyes toward the smiling businessman who had just arrived with another woman on his arm while his wife stood only a few feet away, frozen with shock. The woman beside him wore an expensive white dress, sparkling jewelry, and a proud smile that suggested she belonged there. His wife, dressed simply but elegantly, felt the floor disappear beneath her feet as whispers spread across the room like wildfire. Everyone expected tears, screaming, or a dramatic confrontation. Instead, what happened over the following weeks became the kind of story that no one who witnessed it would ever forget. Sometimes the deepest betrayal creates the strongest soul, and sometimes the greatest revenge is not revenge at all, but becoming so extraordinary that those who hurt you can never reach your level again. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of inner strength, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the Kindness Tales Story family for more emotional stories that inspire hearts around the world. Maris Caldwell had never imagined that the happiest day of her husband's business career would become the darkest day of her own life. She had spent 16 years standing beside Ronan Hale through every struggle, every failed investment, every unpaid bill, and every sleepless night. When they first married, they lived in a tiny apartment with peeling paint and borrowed furniture. Ronan dreamed of building a successful construction company, and Maris quietly supported every impossible dream. She worked double shifts at a neighborhood bookstore during the day and spent evenings organizing company paperwork by hand because they could not afford office staff. She skipped buying new clothes so Ronan could purchase equipment. She sold the small jewelry collection inherited from her grandmother so the company could survive its first difficult year. Every sacrifice was made with love, believing they were building a future together. Years passed, and that future finally arrived. Hale Developments became one of the city's fastest-growing companies. They moved into a beautiful home filled with sunlight, planted colorful flowers in the front garden, and became respected members of their community. Yet success slowly changed Ronan in ways Maris refused to notice. Meetings became more important than family dinners. Luxury became more important than gratitude. Admiration from strangers became more valuable than the quiet loyalty of the woman who had believed in him before anyone else did. The gentle husband who once thanked her for every little act of kindness slowly disappeared behind expensive suits, flashy parties, and endless praise from people who knew nothing about the difficult years. When the company celebrated its 15th anniversary, hundreds of important guests gathered inside a luxurious hotel ballroom during a bright spring afternoon. Sunlight poured through enormous windows, filling the room with warmth while photographers captured smiling faces. Maris carefully arranged the final decorations, making sure every guest felt welcomed. She believed this celebration honored everything they had built together. She never imagined she was arranging the stage for her own heartbreak. Then Ronan arrived holding the hand of Celine Cross, a glamorous social media personality nearly 20 years younger than Maris. Cameras flashed as Ronan proudly introduced Celine to investors, business partners, and longtime friends. He never once looked toward his wife standing silently near the entrance. The humiliation spread through the room before anyone spoke a word. Expressions of pity replaced cheerful smiles. Friends lowered their eyes because they could not bear to witness such cruelty. Maris felt every heartbeat echo through her chest, yet she refused to collapse. She quietly placed the welcome book on the reception table, thanked the hotel staff for their hard work, and walked out into the warm daylight without creating a scene. The drive home felt longer than any journey she had ever taken. Every familiar street reminded her of memories that suddenly felt borrowed from another lifetime. Instead of crying endlessly, she sat in the peaceful garden she had planted years earlier. Butterflies floated above blooming flowers while children laughed in a nearby park. The ordinary beauty of the afternoon reminded her that the world continued moving even when a single heart shattered. She realized something important that day. Ronan had taken her dignity only if she allowed him to keep it. She still possessed her wisdom, compassion, experience, and strength. Those treasures could never be stolen. The following morning, Maris quietly packed a single suitcase. She left the mansion without taking expensive artwork, luxury furniture, or designer clothing. She only carried family photographs, her late grandmother's recipe notebook, and the worn leather journal where she had written dreams throughout the years. She rented a modest apartment above a neighborhood bakery where the smell of fresh bread greeted every sunrise. Instead of hiding from the world, she volunteered at a community learning center that helped struggling families develop career skills and financial confidence. Her kindness quickly attracted people searching for hope. She listened without judgment, encouraged discouraged parents, organized workshops, and inspired teenagers who believed success belonged only to wealthy families. The wisdom she had gained while helping build Ronan's company became priceless knowledge for ordinary people trying to rebuild their own lives. Day after day, sunlight filled the classrooms while lives slowly transformed through simple encouragement and practical education. Maris discovered something she had forgotten during years spent supporting someone else's ambitions. She had extraordinary talents of her own. Within months, local newspapers began publishing stories about the growing success of the Learning Center. Donations increased, volunteers multiplied, business owners offered internships to graduates. Families who once depended on assistance started opening small businesses of their own. Every success story became another reminder that genuine leadership begins with lifting others rather than standing above them. Meanwhile, Hale Developments began facing unexpected difficulties. Ronan remained surrounded by luxury, but trust slowly disappeared inside the company. Employees remembered how easily he had humiliated the woman who had built the business beside him. Investors questioned whether someone capable of such public cruelty could truly value loyalty. Several experienced managers resigned, choosing workplaces built on respect instead of fear. Financial growth slowed while negative publicity spread across local media. Celine had loved attention more than commitment. As invitations became fewer and headlines focused on company problems instead of glamorous appearances, her interest faded. She gradually disappeared from Ronan's public life just as quickly as she had entered it. For the first time in years, Ronan found himself sitting alone inside an enormous office that suddenly felt painfully empty. Success without genuine relationships echoed like silence through every polished hallway. One sunny afternoon, Ronan accidentally saw Maris while driving through town. She stood outside the community center surrounded by smiling children holding graduation certificates from a summer education program. Volunteers laughed while families celebrated together beneath colorful decorations. Maris looked happier than he had seen her in years. Her smile came not from wealth or status but from purpose. That single moment unsettled him more deeply than any financial loss ever had. Curiosity overcame pride. Ronan quietly attended one of the community center's public fundraising events held in a beautiful city park. He expected to find bitterness, anger, or stories criticizing him. Instead, he watched Maris warmly welcome every guest regardless of their background. She thanked volunteers, praised local businesses, hugged elderly supporters, and celebrated every small victory achieved by others. She never mentioned the betrayal that had changed her life. She had chosen healing instead of hatred. As Ronan listened to people describe how Maris had helped them find employment, rebuild confidence, overcome personal struggles, and believe in themselves again, shame settled heavily upon his heart. He realized the greatest success in life had never been the company he built. It had been the remarkable woman he failed to appreciate. Weeks later, Ronan requested a private meeting with Maris. They met in the peaceful botanical gardens during a bright afternoon filled with blooming flowers and singing birds. He looked older than before, not because of age but because regret had quietly carved itself across his face. He admitted every mistake without excuses. He confessed that pride had blinded him until everything meaningful slipped away. He apologized for humiliating the person who had loved him most faithfully. Maris listened calmly without anger. The pain remained part of her history, but it no longer controlled her future. Forgiveness, she explained gently, was something she had already chosen because carrying hatred only continued the suffering. Yet forgiveness did not erase consequences. Some bridges, once burned, could never return exactly as they had been. She sincerely wished Ronan healing, wisdom, and peace, but her own journey now followed a different path. Those words left Ronan speechless. He had expected arguments or impossible conditions. Instead, he encountered quiet dignity stronger than any accusation could ever be. Maris walked away beneath the bright afternoon sky with confidence that came from rediscovering herself rather than defeating someone else. Over the next several years, the Community Learning Center expanded into multiple neighborhoods, helping thousands of families build brighter futures. Maris became known not because she had been betrayed but because she transformed personal heartbreak into compassion for others. Schools invited her to speak about resilience. Young entrepreneurs sought her guidance. Parents thanked her for restoring hope to their children. Her greatest achievement was never becoming famous. It was becoming unforgettable in the lives she changed. Ronan also changed. He stepped away from public attention, restructured his company around honesty and employee well-being, and quietly supported community projects without expecting recognition. Although he and Maris never reunited as husband and wife, her example taught him lessons success alone never could. Every act of kindness he later performed became a silent tribute to the woman whose strength had finally opened his eyes. The guests who once witnessed Maris's public humiliation often spoke about that unforgettable afternoon. They remembered expecting a broken woman. Instead, they witnessed the beginning of an extraordinary transformation. The woman everyone pitied became the woman everyone admired. Her silence that day was never weakness. It was the first chapter of a story that proved true dignity never needs to shout. Before this story ends, please leave a comment with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe that healing is stronger than revenge and that no act of compassion is ever wasted. As the sun slowly settled across another peaceful afternoon, Maris stood outside the learning center watching children run across the green lawn with hopeful smiles. She understood that life had not stolen her happiness. It had simply redirected it toward a purpose greater than she had ever imagined. The betrayal that once felt like the end of everything had quietly become the beginning of the most meaningful chapter of her life. Sometimes losing the person you trusted most becomes the moment you finally discover your own extraordinary strength. And sometimes the move that leaves everyone speechless is not revenge, anger, or pride, but choosing grace, rebuilding your life, and proving that a compassionate heart will always shine brighter than cruelty. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, subscribe to Kindness Tales Story, and let this reminder stay with you wherever life takes you. Those who choose kindness may be wounded for a season, but in the end, kindness always finds its way back home.